Take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, but then you're still making that backwards story about 7 dwarves living in a cave together. What the fuck are you doing, man? Have I done nothing to advance the cause from my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough. Rachel Zegler is supposed to play Snow White. She's Latina. It says, literally no offense to anyone, but I was a little taken aback that they were very proud to cast a Latina actress as Snow White, but you're still telling the story of Snow White and the 7 dwarfs.
And I get it, there's a difference between spoiling and whatever, but to go out and badmouth everybody and talk smack about, older movies in the same franchise, the canon story, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I feel like they would have had better control over that.
Imagine a fairy tale so iconic it's etched into our childhoods. Snow White, the princess, the dwarves, the apple, turned into Hollywood's most jaw-dropping train wreck. How did Disney's shiny new live-action remake crash so hard it's now called the Snow White disaster? Buckle up, because this story's got casting drama, a star-studded blame game, and a rumored rift between Rachel Zegler and Peter Dinklage that still got tongues wagging. This isn't just a flop, it's a mystery that's left fans reeling and studios sweating.
It's this weird thing where he's saying, like, oh, it's bad that we're still doing Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, so he doesn't necessarily want that. But as little people actors, it's like, well, we kind of want to work. We kind of want that part, and if that's what's available, then that's what we'd like to do. But at the same time, I get what he's saying, because yeah, people are like, well, was it that bad? I go, yeah, because at the time, dwarves really didn't have any representation.
Rachel Zegler's casting as Snow White hit the scene like a thunderbolt. A Latina actress stepping into the shoes of a traditionally German fairy tale icon? Some cheered it as a bold move toward inclusivity. Finally, a fresh face for a new generation. Others weren't so sure, grumbling that Disney was straying too far from the 1937 classic they grew up with. Zegler, hot off West Side Story, was poised to be Hollywood's next darling, but the excitement barely had time to settle before the first cracks appeared. Critics online started asking, if you're shaking things up this much, what's next for the story? Turns out they had no idea how wild it'd get.
Literally no offense to anything. They're very proud to cast.
There's power of being on TV.
They're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave.
Then Peter Dinklage dropped a bombshell that flipped the whole project upside down. The Game of Thrones legend, who's got dwarfism himself, called out Disney on a podcast, slamming the 7 dwarfs as a tired offensive stereotype. He didn't hold back, questioning why a progressive studio would cling to a backward story about 7 dwarves living in a cave. His words hit hard. Some fans nodded along, praising him for shining a light on Hollywood's lazy tropes. But Disney? They panicked. Dinklage wasn't just any actor, he's a heavyweight with a voice that carries. And what he said next would send the production into a tailspin nobody saw coming.
That controversy is being compared to Halle Bailey's Little Mermaid, which did lose $50 million, making only $555 million in a budget of $250 million. Peter Dinklage was criticized by some actors with similar conditions, like Dylan Postl said Peter Dinklage was being selfish and that community needs more work. Disney has cast Rachel Zegler to play Snow White, which caused a lot of controversy because Zegler is Hispanic and the character is traditionally German.
Cue the chaos. Disney didn't just tweak the script, they gutted it. Out went the 7 dwarfs, replaced by a vague mix of magical creatures and one token dwarf, as if that had smoothed things over. Fans flipped out. Where was the charm, the whimsy? The dwarfism community wasn't happy either, feeling erased from a story that could have showcased real talent. Zegler stayed quiet at first, but whispers from the set painted a picture of a creative team scrambling to dodge Dinklage's critique. The result? A film that didn't know what it wanted to be, and that was just the start of the unraveling.
Guiding principle, just progress for the sake of progress, and you're just trying to weave around offense after offense.
I mean, there's the easy joke of, well, we didn't see you on the soapbox, Peter.
It's true.
But
test screenings rolled around and the feedback was brutal. Audiences walked out scratching their heads, calling it a tonal mess. Part nostalgia trip, part heavy-handed sermon. Insiders leaked that scenes felt forced, like the filmmakers were pandering to modern buzzwords instead of telling a solid story. Zegler's performance got some love, but even her star power couldn't save a script that insiders said was rewritten so many times it lost its soul. The vibe on set? Tense. Creative clashes bubbled up, with some pushing for a classic retelling and others demanding a total overhaul, but the real shocker was still brewing behind closed doors.
People with dwarfism on camera in a major Disney movie, like we're a disability group, you just erase that whole image. Magical creatures, but they have one token dwarf power of television, and to put 7.
Here's where it gets juicy. Rumors started flying that Rachel Zegler was pointing fingers at Peter Dinklage for the whole fiasco. Word on the street, she felt his viral critique lit the match that burned the production down. Sources, unverified mind you, claimed she vented to friends that the dwarf drama forced constant rewrites, leaving her stuck with a disjointed role that tanked her big moment. True or not, the internet ate it up. Fans split into camps. Some backed Zegler, saying she got caught in a storm she didn't start. Others called it a cop-out, arguing she should have spoken up sooner if she hated the direction. Either way, the blame game was on, and it was about to get messier.
This would have been a lot better if they, had a strong male along with her, a prince, if it wasn't about socialism, if they didn't remove the dwarves, if they had through this, right? Oh, there's no prince. Woman doesn't need a prince.
Oh, Lord.
Really? Okay, good luck back then.
The dwarfism community wasn't letting this slide either. Actors like Dylan Postal blasted Dinklage, accusing him of hogging the spotlight and costing little people a rare shot at a major gig. There's power in putting 7 dwarfs on screen in a Disney blockbuster. Postal argued, and plenty agreed. Dinklage's push for change had backfired, they said. Instead of better roles, they got CGI replacements and a big fat nothing. It was a gut punch to a group already fighting for visibility. And while Dinklage stayed mum, the tension exposed a rift nobody expected, piling even more heat on an already blazing disaster.
Doesn't need a prince to save her, and not surrounded by 7 weird people. Oh, okay, just CGI fictional goblins, I guess. And someone goes like, hey, 7 dwarves is offensive to midgets. You're like, oh, okay, so let's just not employ any of them.
Yes, Peter Dinklage.
Financially, this was a bloodbath. Word is Disney sunk over $100 million into this mess, only to watch it limp out of theaters with lukewarm reviews and a box office whimper. Sound familiar? It's giving Little Mermaid vibes. Halle Bailey's remake lost $50 million despite pulling in $555 million thanks to a $250 million budget. Snow White's flop hit harder though, with critics saying it didn't just miss the mark, it lost the plot entirely. Fans who usually defend Disney's live-action streak called this a step too far, and the studio's dream of a modern fairy tale hit turned into a nightmare they couldn't spin.
Backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it. It is offensive. Change the story, don't change the characters.
Wait, there's a twist. Whispers of a second Snow White remake started swirling, and Jenna Ortega's name popped up as the fan favorite pick. Could she pull off what Zegler couldn't? Online, people buzzed about her knack for blending grit and charm. Think Wednesday vibes meets fairy tale magic. No official word from Disney yet, but the idea's got legs. After the Zegler-Dinklage mess, fans are begging for a reboot that nails the balance. Fresh, but faithful. And if it happens, you can bet they'll be watching every move to see if Disney learned a DMN thing.
Peter Dinklage comes into this as when Rachel Zegler was cast, he laughed at Disney saying it's fake progressivism. Peter Dinklage said that Disney casting Rachel Zegler is their way to feel good about themselves while ignoring a much bigger problem.
So why does this keep happening? Hollywood's obsessed with modernizing fairy tales, but they're tripping over the same trap, rushing to tweak classics without a clear plan. Snow White's not just a story, it's a legacy. Disney's first animated hit back in '37. Messing with that takes guts, but also finesse they didn't have here. Dinklage's call-out might have sparked the fire, but the real damage came from a studio too scared to stick to a vision. It's a warning sign. Keep swinging for progress without heart, and you'll end up with a hollow shell that nobody wants.
Makes no sense to me. You're progressive. What the f are you doing, man?
The dwarves, though. Magical.
The disability should have been from Peter Dinklage. There's still power there. They're remaking the movie. They just got rid of the dwarfs. Okay,
but what do they call them?
Why would they get rid of?
Where does this leave us? The Snow White disaster isn't just a flop, it's a riddle. Did Zegler really blame Dinklage? Or is that just the internet stirring the pot? Will Disney double down or ditch the fairy tale game altogether? One thing's clear, this saga's left scars. On Zegler's rising star, on Dinklage's rep as a truth teller, and on a studio that can't seem to crack the remake code. Next time they touch a classic, they better bring more than good intentions. What do you think? Can Snow White ever get her happy ending, or is this mess just the beginning?